Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on all of our network affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on television, on all of our cable providers and hotel TV where applicable, thank you very much. Everybody streaming, thank you again. And guess what? Everybody driving between your favorite destinations, waking up with us and driving home with us from work or whatnot. Thanks for joining us, even on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out Chicago Food Favorites, fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes. Make some friends. Have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Oh. And by the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you can answer a very simple trivia question. And here it is. Which of these is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat, B, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, or the very large Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. That's 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. If so, again, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. After an interesting week in college football, as we go to week number 14, we're headed into week number 14, apparently, because week number 13, we saw some changes. And then week number 14, we saw things kind of spread itself out and normalize where it was supposed to be in the grand scheme of things. So the stars are sort of aligning here for the bowl pictures and the playoff. But now going through these rankings, we're going to go through the AP Top 25, and then we're going to compare with the coaches poll because we can over in the AP Top 25. Those dropping from the rankings completely are Missouri and Houston, which is kind of a shocker. Actually, they've dropped from the rankings altogether, I should say, but they're still getting votes. But Illinois only gets one vote in lieu of their loss to Wisconsin, and that was a really ugly loss. And Wake Forest gets a couple. UConn gets a few. Yes, UConn, believe it or not, in football. South Florida gets 4. Vegas gets 7. Iowa gets 10. A pretty good Iowa team. Washington gets 16. San Diego State 19. Arizona 20. I mentioned Missouri at 23. Navy gets 24 or 44. Arizona State gets 77. Over in the coaches poll, it's essentially the same cast of characters, just with a little bit of a different order. And plus you have Penn State, believe it or not, getting 4 votes in the coaches poll. I think that's more political. South Florida gets 1, and they're not even, well, they get 4 in the AP anyway. But going to, I'm going to compare 25, 25, 24, 24. Okay, the first one's going to be AP. AP 25 is SMU at 8-3, and the coaches have them at the same. The 24th team is Pitt, 8-3. They have the same at the coaches poll. 23 In lieu of their loss, Georgia Tech, with an ugly loss, they drop 8 slots to number 23 in the AP, and the 23rd team is Tulane, and they actually picked up a couple of votes, but the coaches poll doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's really a better gauge of talent. So 22 has the Associated Press has Tulane. They have them jumping up 2 from 24, and number 22 is North Texas, the Mean Green. In the AP, North Texas is 21st, and James Madison is 21st in the coaches poll. In the AP, it is James Madison at number 20. Let me tell you something. That James Madison team is good. North Texas is good. I would like to see both of these teams get into the college football playoff. But that would make for some real fun football. 21 and 20 in the coaches poll. 21 is James Madison. USC drops 4 down to number 20 in the coaches poll. In the AP, USC is number 19. Georgia Tech is number 19 in the coaches poll. Tennessee is 18th in both. Virginia is 17 in both. Texas 16 in both. Michigan 15 in both. So is Utah at 14. Miami 13 in both. 12 in both. Brigham Young the same. Alabama cracking the top 10. Alabama is number 10. Notre Dame is number 9. Oklahoma number 8. Texas Tech, everybody else is the same. So let's go to the top 10 here. So Alabama got themselves a pretty good win. It wasn't a great win, but they got themselves a pretty good win because they beat up on lowly Eastern Illinois. They should have beat them 500-0. Instead, they beat them 56-0. Notre Dame ended up getting a win against Syracuse. And that was a big win, too. It was kind of surprising. I didn't think they would score 70 on them, but they did. And I guess they had to because of the whole college football playoff nonsense. Oklahoma got themselves a tough win, and they go to 9-2. And they are solidly in number 8 position in both polls, by the way. And Texas Tech, despite their win, they dropped 1 slot to number 7 in the Associated Press. And Ole Miss, same thing. They dropped 1 slot. Oregon picks up 1 with their win over USC, and that was a 14-point victory, if I'm not mistaken. So Oregon is in the top 5 now. And this is very interesting. I'll tell you why in a minute. Georgia, number 4, with their win. Texas A&M with their win, number 3. Indiana did not play. They play on Friday after Thanksgiving. They play on Black Friday. Everyone's shopping. You should be watching a football game instead. They're playing the game against Purdue in the old Oaken Bucket. And Ohio State is in the first position. Now, what I find interesting is when you look at the potential bracket for these teams, the standings are the standings, but let's take a look at what's going to happen potentially in the first of all, let's go to the Big Ten Championship, because you've got 3 teams in the top 5 in the Big Ten, and the other 2, number 3 and 4, are in the SEC, and number 6 is in the SEC as well. So they have 3, 4, and 6. Big Ten has 1, 2, and 5, and then the Big 12 has number 7 and number 8 and number 11. So anyway, back to the Big Ten and the Big Ten Championship. So now it's Ohio State will be traveling up to Ann Arbor to play in the Big House, which also is known as the Fun House, if you know what I mean. So they're going to play up there, and I don't care what the point spread is at this point. Who cares? This is more about if Michigan finds a way to win this game. And you say, well, yeah, they could win it, but they probably won't because they give up more points than the defense from those guys from Columbus, which is true. But remember, Michigan's had a little bit of a tougher schedule. And now you say, first of all, why are they in first place? Because Indiana is in first place in the Big Ten. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that still is the case. So what I probably should do is, before I go spouting off on that, Indiana's been essentially in first place all year in the Big Ten for the most part, all season. And as I look at it, I say, I believe they're the better squad. I think Indiana is the better team. Yeah, and they still are. Yes, in fact, they are the number 1 team in the Big Ten. So therefore, if they're ranked ahead of Ohio State, and they're both 8-0 in the conference, then it stands to reason that the polls should have Indiana as the number 1 team in the nation. It's real simple. And when you look at the points for, points against, whatever, one scores more, one gives up less, right? It's the same idea. Indiana scores a lot of points, and they've given up an extra field goal per game than the other guys from Columbus, Ohio. But ultimately, when we look at these teams in the conference, Indiana has scored 24 more points in conference play, and they've played a tougher schedule. And they've given up 37 more points than those guys from Columbus. But the tougher schedule kind of means something in the grand scheme of things. And there is a head-to-head matchup here. So let's think about let's go back to the Big Ten Championship and this week's games. If Michigan wins this weekend, well, what does that do? In the standings, that pulls Michigan, as I'm looking at it now, it pulls them to 8-1. It drops Ohio State to 8-1. But the tiebreaker would go to whom? The tiebreaker goes to Michigan, because they would have just beaten Ohio State. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, if Indiana somehow finds a way to lose to Purdue, which they probably won't, and let's say they drop to 8-1. Well, and let's say Oregon wins their game against Washington. They go to 8-1. Well, guess what? Indiana is still in because they have the tiebreaker over Oregon. That's right. Tell you what, we're going to pick this up when we come back from the break. Don't go anywhere. Less more to come here on the Sports Circus.
Stop it! Stop it!
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. And a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates on radio, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, 99.1 FM WDJY. Thanks for doing that. Everybody driving home with us just a little bit to the southwest of there, over in Auburn, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, listening in at 7 p.m. on WAUD. That's WAUD over there in Auburn, Alabama, with a nice big signal from Montgomery up to Columbus, or out to Columbus, Georgia. All throughout the Midwest, all the way out to the West Coast, those driving between Las Vegas and sunny Southern California, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM, 107.3 FM. That's home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and of course the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Thanks for joining us there. Also up and down the West Coast, out to our friends in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates from coast to coast in select markets, as well as Hotel TV, same. And everybody's streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer. By the way, at the top of the show, we made an announcement for our friends over at Vacation Buddies, giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas. If you knew the answer to a simple trivia question, and I'm going to read that again in case you happen to have missed it. All right, and so here it is. If you answer it right, a couple of nights in Las Vegas, a couple of nights in Orlando, or a couple of nights in Branson, Missouri, by Vacation Buddies. Which of these is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it the Stratosphere Tower, A, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat? Is it B, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino? Or is it the very large hotel and casino known as the Fontainebleau? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies, again, is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, if you know the answer to that question. If so, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, so I left off with a comparison in the Big Ten. And I have to talk about it because they occupy 3 of the 5 slots in the top 25 poll in football, college football. And so as I had stated previously, Ohio State, or better yet, Ohio State, those guys, yeah, I can do that. Those guys have a number 1 ranking, yet Indiana is in first place in the Big Ten. Why is that? All right. Nonetheless, the reality is if Michigan goes and beats Ohio State, then they will find themselves in the Big Ten title game. If Oregon beats Washington, they're still not going to be in the Big Ten title game. USC can't be in the Big Title 10 game because they have title game because they have 2 losses, which would mean even if Indiana loses to Purdue, it would be Indiana and Michigan in the Big Ten title game, because the tiebreaker, Oregon would not get in there because Oregon lost head-to-head against Indiana in the first place. So that's what it would look like in the Big Ten as far as the title game. And why does it matter? Because if by chance Michigan wins, and let's just say Michigan ends up winning the Big Ten. Let's say they win the Big Ten tournament as well. So that would make them 9-1. And let's say if they play Indiana, and let's say Indiana also would be what? 9-1. Or 10, I'm sorry, they would be 10-1. Wait, let me see if I have this right. No, they'd be 9-1. That's right. Because if in Indiana, if they beat Purdue, they'll go to 9-0. And then if they lose to Michigan, then they become 9-1. So Michigan would have the tiebreaker over Ohio State. Indiana did not play Michigan or Ohio State. Oh, actually, strike that. They would have lost to Michigan. So they would technically be the second place team in the conference, but probably ranked number 3 or 4, depending on what Texas A&M does. And if Texas A&M can beat Texas, and if Georgia can win their final game as well. There's a lot going on here, folks, with this CFP thing. But it matters because Michigan could be the 4th team in the college football playoff from the Big Ten. So let's go to the bracket on that, because actually the bracket is kind of an interesting discussion. When you look at it, you say, all right, the proposed bracket. Here's the, let's see, which one should we take? Do we take the latest one from the AP, or let's take a projection? Let's do this. The college football playoff projection. That's by NCAA.com. All right. So they have 1, 2, 3, and 4. They have Ohio State as 1, Indiana as 2, opposite side of the bracket. Number 3, same side as Indiana, as number 3, Texas A&M. And number 4 is Georgia, same side as Ohio State. Now, in the upper left, so on the 1 and 4 side, the 9 and 8 game would be Alabama. This is according to NCAA.com. Alabama would host Notre Dame. And then at the bottom of the bracket, they, of course, at the top of the bracket, the winner would go to play against those guys from Columbus. Now, at the bottom of the bracket is Texas Tech at number 5. They would host Tulane, the Green Wave. And don't be mistaken here. Tulane's a pretty good squad. I don't think Tulane's going to be the last one in. I think James Madison is going to be the last one in. I would like to see James Madison, and I would like to see the Mean Green of North Texas in there. Now, that would be cool. Anyway, I don't know if there's enough room for them this year. But both of those teams are one-loss teams. And Notre Dame has 2 losses, and I believe Miami does. But Miami, on the opposite side of the bracket, over below the number 3, in the lower right side of the bracket, they have them playing Ole Miss. Ole Miss will be in there for sure. And the only way Miami doesn't get in there is if they lose, I guess it would be the ACC title game. That would be it. We'll take a look at the schedule in a bit. At the top of that bracket, the winner, Indiana, would get the winner of Oregon and Oklahoma. Now, that would be very interesting because Indiana then, of course, would have what? They would have Oregon in a neutral field. Last time they played, Indiana beat Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. So now Indiana would probably they'd be even better because they'd be playing in a neutral field. But they have the bracket set up where if you look at the left side and the right side, you have one Big Ten team on the left side. And, of course, that's the number 1 team. They have 2 Big Ten teams on the right side of the brackets, thinking that Ohio State may make the title game, and they have, okay, you may have a shot to play one of the Big Ten teams, either Indiana or Oregon. But now if Michigan wins, if Michigan gets in there, if Michigan beats Ohio State, then maybe the odd team out could be Notre Dame. Now, that could be a real possibility because one of the group of 5 teams are going to get in there. The highest ranking group of 5 team will get in at the number 23 slot. So the odd team out would be those guys from South Bend, and Michigan would likely take over that game against Alabama. Now, that would be one hell of a game because that would set it up. Whereas if Michigan could beat Alabama, and this is a hypothetical, but again, I'm on NCAA.com looking at this, that would mean the winner would play Ohio State. And then it would be a rematch and a neutral field between those two. The game that's coming up, Michigan, Ohio State, they would have a rematch. And if I'm not mistaken, that would be at the Rose Bowl this year. So this is really interesting. Now, again, on the left side of the bracket, you have 2 ACC teams right now with Alabama and Georgia potentially squaring off to get into the title game. But now, opposite side of the bracket, you have 2 SEC teams. Well, guess what? On the other side, you have 3 SEC teams. You have Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. So really, there's 5 SEC teams in this proposed bracket by the NCAA, where there's only 3 for the Big Ten. And the ACC has 1 in Miami right now. And the Big 12 only has Texas Tech. That's it. Because remember, Oklahoma is now in the SEC. So this whole thing is a real big fat mess. But if Michigan wins against those guys from Columbus, it's really going to throw this into a tailspin, especially looking at what happens if, what happens if Miami happens to lose their next game. So we'll go to NCAA football schedule, and let's take a look at what's coming up. And when you look at what's coming up, hell, I'm looking in the wrong place here. I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to go to the odds. And because what we'll probably get is we'll get the opening line for the odds. And frankly, folks, if you're a bettor, it's the opening line that should interest you the most, not all this other garbage. It doesn't matter what happens from after the opening line moves all the way to game time. Because the true line, if you want the true line, well, that means you're going to look for the opening line in the first place. All right, so what I will do, I tell you what, we're running on time here for this segment. Let me see if I have, I've got some of the other games here, but I'm going to get into the point spreads and whatnot in the next segment because, we literally have about 15 seconds left of this. But I'll tell you what, folks, this is really interesting for a lot of reasons. When you look at the line, the opening line, it tells you not only which way the money is going, but also which way the sports bettors are being guided by the sports books. Tell you what, we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back here with Sal the Bookmaker from the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Show me the money!
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors Others who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven, gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guest, a prior guest, recorded shows which could be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Stitcher, YouTube, Deezer, and a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure to check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. One of those, our favorite, is Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And guess what? You can pick up your supplies and get all that great food through Federal Express. They have a deal where they will send out everything before the holidays for sure, fresh, nothing frozen, everything is fresh. That's why they use FedEx. Got to tell you folks, it's the best I've ever had, and it guaranteed. It's just one of those sandwiches that will absolutely blow you away. The Italian beef sandwich, don't confuse it with the Philly cheesesteak sandwich because they are very, very, very different. Anyway, Al's #1 Italian Beef. Check them out, folks, at alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV, radio, you know who you are. Now, we left off with that college football playoff, and there are games. The games coming up, and we look at the games. We say, okay, we'll get to the big games in a minute. We're going to blow through these other ones real quick here, just because. Sal, the bookmaker here. Of course, you know me as Ringmaster Sal as well. I've been picking games against the Vegas line, doing very, very, very well for a very long time. People know me as Sal the Bookmaker. Hell, you can even go to salthebookmaker.com and take you right back to thesportscircus.com. That name was tagged on me 10 years ago, and it's still going strong. All right. Games, real quick. Week 14, Bowling Green, all over UMass. That's an easy win. You can bet the farm on that one. Eastern Michigan's going to have their hands full at home against Western Michigan. We'll see what happens there. The Naval Academy travels down to Memphis. Navy may get themselves a win on the road. And the line has moved off of the opening line already. So the Buffalo Bulls and Ohio Bobcats are off the board everywhere right now. Ole Miss. All right, let's get into that CFP picture for a moment here. Ole Miss they open up at 9.5. It's already down to 8.5 at Hard Rock, and it's not on the board yet at MGM and Caesars. But there's already a quick move. People think Mississippi State's going to give them a tough time in the Egg Bowl, and this could be, I guess, Kiffin's last game as the head coach for the Rebels because they want him apparently down at LSU. So we'll see what happens, see if they can poach him. Either way, Ole Miss will win the game. Will they cover the 8.5? I don't know. In some places, it's actually down to 7.5. All right, moving on. Iowa opens up 4, and they're up to 5.5 at Nebraska. And in case you don't know, that's a border war. It's kind of a good game. You'll have a good one to watch there. Kent State, the Golden Flashes, and Northern Illinois off the board completely. Utah travels to Kansas. Utah should have an easy game over there in Lawrence, Kansas. The Air Force Academy and Colorado State's off the board. This one is going to determine a lot. Georgia Tech. And so Georgia opens up at Georgia Tech minus 11. That line has already jumped up to 13.5. So that's a big move. People are thinking that Georgia is going to skunk Georgia Tech, but let's not be too hasty here. Georgia Tech wins when they have to, big games. And don't think for a second Georgia Tech cannot beat Georgia, because they certainly can. That game should be a lot closer than what we think. San Diego State, New Mexico, off the board. North Texas, Mean Green, all day they should destroy Temple at home. Easy game. Boise State, Utah State off the board. Texas A&M and Texas. Now that game's going to have a lot to do with the college football playoff brackets. Texas opens up, believe it or not, at minus 10.5. The early line at the MGM is still the same at minus 10.5. How the hell are you going to give Texas A&M 10.5? Now, what's interesting is the online, and I won't mention the online companies, but the Hard Rock, the other casino right here, for example, in Vegas, they have Texas A&M at minus 2.5 at Texas. Now, that one seems a little bit more in line. So if you're the betting kind of person and you could get over to Caesars, you can apparently, as it stands, you can get Texas A&M with 10.5 points. I mean, as I see it,
show me the money!
That's probably one of the best picks on the board if you can get A&M with 10.5 points. All right, now Indiana should absolutely destroy my Purdue Boilermakers, and they are a 28.5 point favorite. First move, it already jumped up a point from 27.5 to 28.5. Indiana should roll in that game. Look for them to really pile the points on. Arizona State, that, of course, was the old Pac-12 matchup. Now it's a Big 12 matchup. And Arizona, it opens up a picket, and Arizona is the early favorite, 1.5 there. Here's another game with impact on the college football playoff. Texas Tech and West Virginia. Texas Tech opens up at 19.5. They're up to 21.5. Going away, they probably should win this game by a solid 28. And moving on. Okay, Wake Forest is playing pretty good football now in the ACC, a little bit too late. And they go into Durham, North Carolina to play a stingy defense at Duke. And Duke is 3.5. I don't know about that one. I just flip a coin. I think Duke will probably win by 1 point. That's one of those 24-23 kind of games. Here's a game that has impact on the CFP. Miami opens up minus 7.5, and they're down to 6.5 against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. Now that's going to determine, or that in the Georgia Tech game and Virginia, the next game I'm going to get into, will determine who wins the ACC. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they'll get into the CFP. So Miami should win that game over Pittsburgh. Vatech travels to Virginia. Now that game opens up at 10.5 Virginia. It's up to 11.5. And Virginia should win this game. Virginia Tech this year is not very good. So it's rough news for the Hokies, so to say. All right, Colorado probably should lose big to Kansas State, although they'll probably keep it close. Here's an interesting game, Cincinnati and TCU, and this one affects, obviously, the Big 12. But as we look at TCU, they're playing pretty good. Cincinnati with some boneheaded mistakes from some of their players, and I don't know if their heads are in the right places to go into Dallas and play TCU and win that game. I think TCU wins the game. Houston and Baylor, I don't even know how Baylor's competitive. Houston's the better team. I don't care what the line is. I'd go with Houston there. In fact, they're getting points. Central Florida travels to BYU. Long day for Central Florida. The Knights, they're going to have their hats handed to them. BYU into the college football playoff. They will be in there. They should be in there. I don't know how they wouldn't be. SMU all day over Cal. East Carolina and Florida Atlantic. That game's off the board, but I kind of like to see that one. And I think East Carolina is going to win that game. Kentucky and Louisville. That line opened up at 6.5. It's down to 3.5. And that'll probably be Louisville by about 9 or 10 points in that one. Clemson travels to South Carolina, right? It's a very close drive, as a matter of fact, between the two. South Carolina's favored by 2.5, although Clemson opened up minus 5.5. All the money's going on South Carolina on this one, probably for a good reason. South Carolina gets one over by a field goal. Michigan at home opens up plus 5.5 against Ohio State. And that line now has gone from 5.5, plus 5.5, to plus 12.5 at the Hard Rock. And if you're betting the other team, the line hasn't moved yet. So those guys from Columbus are still minus 5.5 at MGM. But if you can get Michigan with 12.5 at home, that's a pretty good pick. I don't care how few points that those guys from Columbus give up. End of day, Michigan's going to keep this game close. Toledo Central Michigan off the board. Ball State Miami off the board. Iowa State all over Oklahoma State. Should not even be a game. UTEP and Delaware. Delaware should destroy UTEP. If you had a farm to bet, that would be the farm game to bet right there. But it's off the board. Look for that line later in the week. Delaware and UTEP. Florida International, Sam Houston, same thing. Florida International all day and twice on Sunday. Marshall, the Thundering Herd, and Georgia Southern off the board as well. Georgia State, Old Domino off the board. Louisiana Tech, Missouri State. Watch out, Missouri State's, the Bears are a really good squad. Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State. That's a very, very good matchup right there. A lot is going to be determined in that game for that conference. Arkansas State and App State, another fun one to watch off the board. Now into the ACC, BC is minus 3.5 against Syracuse. I think Syracuse wins that game after that being demolished last week. UAB travels to Tulsa, Golden Hurricanes there. South Alabama, Texas State all day. Louisiana Monroe against the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. That'll be a fun one to watch off the board. Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State with a good showing last week at Auburn at least for the first half. Not Auburn, at Tennessee for the first half. Well, we know what happened there. Tennessee opens up minus 5.5 against Vanderbilt at Rocky Top. And that line has dropped down 1 point, so we're going to give that one to Vanderbilt with the points. Penn State all day over Rutgers, LSU, and Oklahoma. This game is going to have some impact on the college football playoff if LSU somehow can get lucky and beat Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's a 10.5 favorite there. Army UTSA off the board, fun game. Men of Troy all day in a loss, that is, to Southern Miss. Now we have a little bit of payback here. Missouri should destroy Arkansas. Wisconsin plays Minnesota, and Minnesota somehow is favored in this game. That's a pick, in my opinion. This game is going to impact the college football playoffs. It's Oregon minus 11.5 at the open, and they're down to minus 6.5 in some of the houses, 7.5 at the Hard Rock. That game should be a pretty close one, but Oregon will win the game. Kennesaw State Liberty off. James Madison, my Cinderella. They're traveling to play the Chanticleers at Coastal Carolina. James Madison should get themselves a win. And Florida State should lose to Florida even after that bad beating. Oregon State, Washington State, and the Pac-2, they play each other. Rice, South Florida. That one, South Florida all day. Michigan State will find a win against Maryland. And let's see what else we got. We have Carolina and Carolina State. NC State all day over the Heels. Alabama and Auburn, the Iron Bowl. Let's see if Auburn can get one over on them, and we'll see what happens there. Tell you what, folks, a couple more games we'll get back to in the next segment. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas and the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great gift ideas coming up for the holidays. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, sweat coats, beanie caps, baseball caps, mouse pads, travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, blankets, you name it, they're there. All with the Clever Sports Circus logo on them. That is the store at thesportscircus.com. By the way, folks, if you mention me, your ringmaster Sal, you'll get an extra 10% off your entire order. And of course, we get the super applause. Just because we can. Anyway, the super applause for the Sports Circus and all plugs, etc. All right, welcome back to everybody on radio, TV. You know who you are. Everybody's streaming too. All right. Back with these odds. I'll put my Sell the Bookmaker hat back on real quick. I left off with the Iron Bowl real quick. It was Alabama, open up 7.5. And it's funny because that line is actually down to 5.5 at Caesars. Not on the board yet at the Hard Rock, but it's 3.5 at one of the online venues. And I find that very interesting. And so if you could get Auburn with any reasonable amount of points, I mean, that's great. But it seems like, I mean, look, I'm a War Eagle guy, and I root for them. That's one of our home places right there, WAUD. It's based in Auburn, Alabama. And we always want to see the Tigers win. But this is a special game. It's the Iron Bowl, and it matters. And frankly, if Auburn wins this game, in the grand scheme of things, you got to look at this in a few different ways. Now, if Auburn can somehow figure out a way to win this game, well, let's face it, Alabama has 2 losses. That makes them a 3-loss team, and that knocks them right out of the college football playoff picture. That's what we're after right there. So everything would change in that bracket if Alabama would lose that game. And I mean, look, that's the exciting thing about college football. And you look at the SEC right now, Auburn right now is 5-6. If they get that win, they'll be bowl eligible. And let's face it, if you beat Alabama, I don't care if you're 6-6, guess what? You're going to go to a bowl game. I don't know which one it is, but if they beat Auburn, or if they beat Alabama, then Auburn goes to a bowl game. No question. And actually, Mississippi State has the same situation with Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. So that will be a very, very good game in the grand scheme of things. All right, now back to these odds real quick. Charlotte and Tulane. Tulane is fighting for their college football playoff lives right now. Right now, they're slotted in the last spot. I don't know if they're going to make it. I really believe it's going to be James Madison. But nonetheless, Tulane is in there right now, and they should dismantle Charlotte. If you're looking for the lock of the year, that's the lock of the year right there. Moving on, Northwestern travels down to Champaign to play Illinois. Illinois with a real bad loss against Wisconsin last week. And Northwestern's been playing pretty good ball lately. And when you look at what they've done, I mean, Northwestern has secured themselves a bowl game at this point because they're 6-5. They're bowl eligible, but they'll be able to go up. Illinois is already bowl eligible, but they would essentially have the same record as Illinois and the tiebreaker, and they would get a better bowl game than Illinois would. So that's kind of a big battle for those in the Midwest. UCLA travels to the Coliseum to play USC, and UCLA is a really bad team. USC is a 17.5-point favorite for a very good reason. By the way, they opened up at 7.5. but it's 17.5 now, and they've been going backwards. They had a few big games, but they have just completely lost their identity. USC should smash UCLA. All right, Vegas and Nevada. The battle for Nevada is off the board right now. Vegas should win that game easily. Fresno State, San Jose State, same thing there. That one's off the board. Notre Dame is playing a doormat in Stanford. Yeah, Stanford did get a win last week, but guess what? Notre Dame is minus 33.5. And that's up from the opening line at 29.5. So that one's going up and up and up. And before you know it, that one's going to end up probably about 38. And the final game on the card is Wyoming against Hawaii. That one also is off the board. Why does all this stuff matter? You think of the layout for that college football playoff and you say, all right, what makes the most sense? Right? When we have a matchup, we go back to, let's just say there's a simulator. We use a simulator, and the simulator is from versussportssimulator.com. We want to make sure we give them credit. Pretty cool site, man. Very cool, and you could pin school against school, playing whatever. And what I did is I said, all right, let's pick the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the nation right now. Because I've been on it. I've been on it for the last several weeks. And with all the simulation done, here's what we come up with. This is what they come up with. You look at their opponents. What opponents did they have in common? They both played Wisconsin, and they both won big over Wisconsin. They both played Illinois. And in fact, Ohio State won 34-16 against Illinois, and Indiana dropped 63 on them. They won 63-10. We think of opponents in common. Wisconsin, Indiana won 31-7 against them, and Wisconsin was beaten by the guys from Columbus 34-0. So pretty close games. Now, Penn State lost to the guys from Columbus in Columbus 38-14, and Indiana traveled to Happy Valley and won 27-24 in a thriller. So you think of close games. Well, the guys from Columbus, they played a close game to start the season, and that was against Texas. That was a 14-7 win. Other closer games at Washington, 24-6. That was a pretty close game. And outside of that, I mean, those are really the close games. Now, Indiana, they had a close game against Iowa. Very tough game at Iowa. They won 20-15. And, of course, they had the game at Penn State. They won 27-24. And when you look at the close games, they won at Oregon 30-20. And actually, they could have probably scored another 20 points in that one. So when you look at the teams, you say, all right, well, Indiana's played a tougher schedule. And then when we look at some of these stats here, points per game, Indiana scores more, 43-37. Points against, it's 11.6 for Indiana, 7.6 for those other guys. Game points at home, 49 for Indiana, 41 for the other guys. And the home points against, it's 8.4 for Indiana, and the guys from Columbus, 7.4. Pretty even. Away points per game, Indiana's outscoring their teams, and they played harder teams by 1.5. And the points against, the guys from Columbus have given up about 9 less points per game. Opponents' records, it's essentially a draw. It's a half a game difference. 62-59 versus 62-60. Same. And average opponent rank is 80.3 to 80.8. So it's basically a dead heat. Longest streak, current streak, same. Now you look at superlatives, best wins. Indiana beat Oregon, and they were ranked number 5 at Oregon. The other guys, they beat number 18, Texas. And, of course, they fell right out of the rankings anyway. Both teams lost. None. Largest margin of victory, Indiana, 73. The other guys from Columbus, 70. Both playing doormats. All right, looking at the records, we have perfect records on both sides. Looking at the rankings overall, in the stats, overall, Indiana ranked 1. Power, ranked 1. Offense, ranked 1. And Ohio State is second, and second. In defense, Indiana's number 3. Ohio State 1. Strength of schedule, Indiana 26. It's tougher than Ohio State's 29. And in the future, Indiana obviously has one game left and the other guys don't. against a tougher, an easy team. So anyway, the point is, overall, all of these factors keep Indiana as number one. Now, when you look at the ratings for offense, here, overall, power, offense, defense, strength schedule, and whether it's current or on the road or future. Overall, both teams get an A+. Power, both teams get a 99 out of 100. Offense, Indiana gets a 99. Ohio State gets a 96. Defense, Indiana gets a 98. The other guys get a 99. Strength of schedule, Indiana gets a 92. The other guys get a 91. And so what I'm trying to say here, if you played the game, now according to the simulator, they played the game out, and they have Indiana 28, Ohio State 23. And they give Indiana gets a 62% chance of winning that game according to the simulator. Now that's pretty cool stuff. So why does this matter? Because we think of A, the rankings, B, the college football playoff, and these are your two favorites in America today. And it doesn't matter who they play, because if this is 1 and 2 respectively, ranked teams number 1, number 2, this is the highest rated matchup you're going to see. So the simulation against the number 1 versus number 2 is really what matters, because they're on opposite sides of the bracket. If they take care of business in the first place, when you look at the brackets, well, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to end up likely playing each other, and likely they're going to play in the Big Ten title game. So they may see each other twice, believe it or not. Now, who knows if that's going to happen? Because remember, there are some games that could change some of those opponents. Remember, if Michigan wins, that could put them into the playoff. And if Georgia Tech, or not Georgia Tech, but if Virginia loses to Va-Tech, and if Miami loses to, I think they play Florida State. Or no, they don't play Florida State. But Miami has a game coming up. I forget. But in any event, if they lose as well, well, guess what? Now you may have James Madison and possibly Michigan take those slots, and Tulane would drop out. Now, if Texas takes care of business against Texas A&M, somehow their favorite, I don't even understand how that happens, that makes things move a little bit, because now you have a Texas A&M one-loss team, and they would have lost to a team that's ranked a lot less. So Michigan could jump over them with a win on Saturday at home against the Buckeyes. And so there's so much that can happen this weekend. And the betting odds, the reason we went to the betting odds in the first place is because that's what the sports books have. The odds makers have spent a lot of time and resources putting this together, and that is the official. And how many times have we seen maybe the line is 7.5 in a game and a team wins by 7, or the line is 4.5 and they win? They don't cover the 4.5, right? So they'll win 21-17. It's a 4-point game. So they lose by the hook. The better lose by the hook if you have the favorite. My point is, the odds makers know so much about these things that the bettors don't. And the bettors are basically just, I hate to say it, folks, the bettors are making foolish mistakes by betting on the games in the first place, because if the odds makers are literally a half a point off of these games anyway, what are we looking at? Are the games fixed? Is the real burning question. How are they so good at picking these lines? Are they using simulators right here? Because I guarantee if Indiana and Ohio State played, the simulator has Indiana winning 28-23. But is the line going to be 5.5 or 4.5 or something like that? I don't know. I would think that that's wrong. It doesn't really matter, because I think the money knows all, and the games, in my opinion, are absolutely fixed. Back here in 23 hours on your favorite station. So long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.